We'll move on to the mining tax now and how it ought to be spent. Julia Gillard, to paraphrase her, the Greens and the Coalition are getting together to block company taxes. Now, who would have thought?
Who would have thought it? I think this whole thing is almost like an object lesson in how not to make policy. I mean, it's really gotten to ridiculous levels. First, the government getting hijacked by the miners, so their original policy idea gets, beaten up and kind of bent out of shape. Then Tony Abbott saying, well, if we don't have the mining tax, we won't have the company tax cuts because that's how they're paid for, but we will have our own company tax cuts as yet unidentified because we'll pay for them some other how.
Just hold that thought. We'll have a listen to Tony Abbott on that very point about their alternative and get a sense of that. Here he is.
It is the Coalition's firm commitment, our strong policy to deliver a modest company tax cut at the next election, and all our policies will be fully funded.
A 1.5% cut?
It will be a modest cut.
Are you potentially flagging that it will be lower than 1.5% then? You're saying modest but not committing to 1.5%.
I'm just saying that we will be taking a corporate tax cut to the next election, and it will be fully costed and it will be fully funded.
OK, Lenore, so there will be one, but it will be his and not the government's.
Well, yeah, and 2 points to make about that. First, does it matter? I mean, money is fungible. It's all the same pot of money. So it is entirely open to Tony Abbott to pass this company tax cut and then, make the savings, do what he wants to do when he comes to office. The second point is that he went to the last election with a 1.5% company tax cut, which happened to be the same amount as the 1.5% tax increase he was putting on to pay for his paid parental leave. Now we're not sure whether it's the same amount or not. That may be, the Coalition being prudent and not getting tied down as the government is trying to make them be. But nevertheless, it's not clear whether it will still even make up for the increase in the levy increase that he's putting on to pay for his paid parental leave.
There seems to be, exactly in that point, it seems to be a bit of tax posturing on both sides because, as you outlined, what on earth's happening to the company tax side? The other is because their paid parental leave provisions are pretty expensive for companies as well, and the tax side. But also the government keeps saying we're doing this for small business to cut tax. 70% or so of small business are not incorporated. And there are some provisions for bring forwards for write-offs, etc., just bringing them forward. But in terms of company tax, it won't affect almost all small business, all but 30%. And it's a bit deceptive to say that this is the great big answer to small business.
It's actually a fight about nothing in the end. I mean, when you get right down to it, they're fighting about 1 cent, a 1 cent tax cut, which is not going to affect all that many people. So,
well, I think the corporate community would like to, thinks that 29, they'll take 29 cents over 30
but it's
cents
just
any
the
day.
image that Tony Abbott presents out of all of this, and the timing. Like when Wayne Swan has been pilloried by some for raising this sort of battle against the billionaires, but the timing has been exquisite because the billionaires are out there getting bad press every day by their own hand.
Yeah, but he's also proposing to give them a tax cut.
In what way? With the big business tax
company
cuts?
tax cuts.
Yeah, but nothing like the sort of tax that he's taking from
Well,
them.
there's also the inconsistency
it's a parallel
of
universe.
mining tax money being bad if it pays for a company tax cut, but not bad if it paid for the superannuation increase that we talked about earlier, which is also not particularly logical.